Thanks for joining us late on this Friday night. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, and on the bottom of your screen, meteorologist Mikayla Smith. We appreciate everyone being here on this Friday night as we track storms across Texas. Texas are ongoing from south of San Angelo into Amarillo, and then now officially in the Fort Worth area, we have a severe thunderstorm warning. You know, we were watching these storms about 30, 40 minutes ago, and they were tornado warned, now warned for high wind. So, Mikayla, as we've been watching these storms, what has been your initial thought on kind of what's ongoing right now? While you give that, I'm going to share my screen so we can get a full view of the radar.
Yeah, let's do it. We were watching the storms initially, and again, what Taylor was kind of saying, we had a tornado warning earlier on the west side. It was not fully into the DFW Metroplex just yet. It was closer to Weatherford earlier. That tornado warning has been allowed to expire. I am still keeping a close eye on some areas that it looks like there may be a little bit of rotation still along this main line as it's moving into Fort Worth. Right now, it is severe thunderstorm warned. So that's what you can see, that yellow polygon that Taylor has moving closer. It's not just, one area. They have the whole line warned now coming into Fort Worth. So what you need to know and kind of what you need to prepare for with this is the wording that we've been talking about from the forecast this afternoon. The wording from the Storm Prediction Center has been what we like to call QLCS, type of spin up tornado. So with a line like this, we're not talking about, usually individual supercells with these storms. The hail threat has significantly gone down. Taylor and I were just discussing this off screen a few minutes ago, that we're not as worried about large damaging hail now. We're really switching over to more of a wind threat. But there still will be the possibility for some of these QLCS, these spin up tornadoes that we see in complex lines of thunderstorms like this. And there are still a few areas that I'm watching that are kind of getting my attention now along this leading edge. So even though this is a severe thunderstorm warning, we want you guys to still be prepared that you may have to quickly, if these storms get warned quickly, this kind of QLCS tornadoes spin up very quickly and then they spin down. So be prepared. I know it's a Friday night too. You might have plans. You might know people who are getting ready to go out and have plans. Be prepared that you may have to move to your safe place in your house.
Right. And we were seeing that, just 30 minutes ago, where we were seeing two areas that we were concerned about some sort of rotation here. And now I'm not as concerned about rotation as this moves into the Fort Worth area. However, that doesn't mean that these storms aren't cycling. And then we could see that rotation once again. So that's absolutely something that we're watching for. As Mikayla mentioned earlier, what we're watching for here are these little notches in this line of storms. So we have this long line of storms. Whenever it gets more up and down like this, just straight vertical, that's whenever we start to see the potential for these notches, right? That's what we're watching for. However, I will point out farther down to the south of Fort Worth, we're really watching for some high winds in this area. So whenever these start to make a backwards C shaped right here, so whenever they start to bow out, that's the meteorological term that we use, that's whenever we start to see higher wind speeds. And obviously the Storm Prediction Center or National Weather Service in Fort Worth are also seeing that. They're warning these for 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Earlier it was 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts. So they're watching that just like we are right now. And they're making sure that everyone is warned in the Fort Worth area. Lots of lightning. I'm sure this is very loud coming into Fort Worth as well. I'm working on getting a camera up at the moment.
Taylor, if you want to zoom in really quickly, north of Crescent, it's going to be down a little bit on your left side where you're kind of seeing a little notch right there. That's something that's keeping my attention. I'm looking at a different radar than what Taylor has right now.
Yeah,
and north of Crescent, you kind of have that inflow coming in. It's looking slightly more notchy on the radar that I'm looking at. But also the winds, the velocity right over Crescent right now is showing up higher in the atmosphere. So it's not going to be, ground truth, but it's showing winds at about 72 miles per hour. So that's giving you a pretty clear indication of where things are very windy right now, as Taylor's kind of showing for you. Again, north of Crescent, those winds are pretty strong. And then just to the north of that, you're seeing some of that kind of folding here, that inflow. So I'm definitely watching that closely as it gets a little bit to Benbrook. That would be coming in towards your area if this continues. Eventually, if that kept its track, it would be heading right towards Fort Worth. So that's why I want to watch that area very closely.
And again, that's what we're talking about with those high winds, you know, whether it's winds or whether it's that rotation. That's what you're watching for right now. As everyone joins, and I know we have a few questions that we are monitoring as well. We've got questions about, are they building or crashing? Oh, someone knows their weather. Right now, what we're seeing is we're seeing some storms coming out ahead of this initial line of storms right now. So if you see this from, I think this is Axel, all the polygons are covering this up. Azel, I hope I'm saying that correctly. I'm sure I am not. So this initial line is what we were originally watching for, right? Now we have some rain that's building out in front of this line of storms. So that's what's stretching into places like Fort Worth. That's your initial round of sprinkles, moderate to heavy rain. And then as we go into this full line of storms, that's whenever you get the really heavy rain, the high winds with that as well, and then more of that classic severe thunderstorm, not just the light rain that's out in front of it. So I don't know where you're watching from, Chad, but that's a great question. You know, what can we expect right now? We've got a lot going on. We've got, I mean, I'm really watching this wind that's farther down to the south, just to the east of Granbury. We're talking about the Godley area, which actually someone had a question about that on our live noon forecast today. High winds coming into Godley right now. I would really keep our eye out for this area right here for some strong winds. Very, very well defined at this point. Let's go down. Let's go back to our, we've got some good questions in the chat. Okay, let's go back to our full radar, not just our zoomed in one to Fort Worth. Let's go back to this right here, and let's talk about what we've seen earlier on tonight. I actually want to go back about 30 minutes where we did see a tornado warning in this area. We thought that that was going to come into Fort Worth. It was in the Weatherford area. You guys probably got that tornado warning on your phones as it was issued. Weatherford to Willow Park was in a tornado warning because of some rotation that we saw in this area. However, the National Weather Service since then has said that this threat has diminished, so not too worried about that. As we zoom back out into other places across Texas, which is why it's important for you guys to let us know where you're watching from, and we can talk about your specific places. We had the one little storm that could, and it did. From the west side of Amarillo, it started to produce not severe hail sizes. So we're talking about 3/4 size hail here. Not very impressive. As this continued to move across the southern side of Amarillo and Zeta, hope I'm saying that correctly, we saw quarter-size hail in Haney, Lake Tanglewood as well, which means our forecast verified today with that quarter-size hail up in the Amarillo metro, and then it continued to track to the south, and that's where we find it right now. Non-severe right now, but we did get reports of quarter-size hail earlier today. What other hail reports did we get? We got some half-dollar size hail in this area. A lot of these storms were warned for large hail. However, we never got some ground truth on that. So if we go to our current radar at the moment, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 severe thunderstorm warnings across Texas right now. And that goes from DFW all the way down to the Junction or Rock Springs area. Some people are joining in from places like Austin, Little Rock, Arkansas, and DFW. So we're talking about DFW right now, but Nathan, we see that you're in here as well. I think you got Nathan, you're Oklahoma City, right? We're just getting rain right now. Just some light showers, nothing severe up in Oklahoma. But we'll talk about Austin here in just a few minutes. After we get through this live update, we're going to go into the forecast, and we're going to talk about places like Austin, San Antonio, Houston, and Dallas for what you could see with the second round of storms that's expected tomorrow. So this is not the only round of storms that you're going to get here. You're going to see another one tomorrow, and we'll talk about that here in just a few minutes. There's your severe thunderstorm warning right now. Mikayla, if you don't have anything else other than, actually, I want to give an update on the watch right now. This goes until midnight tonight, so we have another little over 3 hours until this watch expires. What the National Weather Service is warning initially with this watch is they're saying strong wind up to 70 miles an hour, ping pong ball size hail, so 1.5-inch hail, and a tornado or two possible. Now, I'm going to go past that. I'm going to say that hail risk has probably gone down. Not too worried about the hail at this point. Now that wind risk, that is something I'd keep an eye on. 60, 70, 75 mile per hour winds, not out of the question tonight. So that's what we're watching for tonight. Still that tornado risk, I'm still going to keep an eye on as well as we head into the late night hours.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. We kind of already said earlier, just if you are somewhere like Hector watching from Euless, which is DFW, we've had a few others watching, even, Sarah's watching down in Austin. With these storms, they've, again, kind of like Taylor's mentioned, they're in a line now. They're not going to separate again. Like we have our cluster of storms, our line of storms. We forecasted that earlier, today, that we were going to start off initially seeing some of these storms more initially kind of like supercells isolated. But once they formed this cluster, that the risk was going to switch over from more of a tornado threat to a strong wind threat, the hail threat also diminishing. But with this tornado threat, it's very different than maybe some days that you can see these storms. Dallas is not, an uncommon area for these quick spin up QLCS tornadoes. A little bit different than sometimes you get in Oklahoma City. Eastern Oklahoma is another area that's very common. That's where I was forecasting from not long ago, that we get these quick spin up tornadoes overnight. So if you were jumping on, maybe you have plans on your Friday night, maybe you're about to go catch a movie, or you're just sitting at home, but you want to tune out the rest of the evening. Still make sure that you're staying weather aware until this line passes you. Once this line passes you, so if you're in Jacksboro, if you're in Mineral Wells, I'm trying to see up here, the screen here, if you're in Stephenville, this line has passed you, your severe weather threat is over. You're in the clear. You might still hear some rumbles of thunder tonight. You still get a little bit of rainfall, but the line of storms is now past you. But if you're ahead of this line, if you're in Denton, McKinney, Rockwall, Dallas, Waxahachie, Hillsboro, especially, you're still in that Cleburne, Fort Worth, you're in the severe thunderstorm warning right now. That means it's moving your way. It's warned for pretty strong winds right now. But also, again, there will be the possibility, not looking imminent right now, but there will be the possibility that we could see some of these spin up quick tornadoes. So just make sure you're staying weather aware. Make sure that you have multiple ways to receive warnings. If you decide to head to bed at some point in time, make sure that, phone is going to be turned on. So if you were to get an alert, or if you see someone who, you have a family member that you see that they might be in a warning area, give them a call, give them a heads up. That's always going to be something super beneficial, especially as we head more into the weekend. Taylor, I can't hear you right now. I don't know if you can still hear me. I cannot hear your audio.
How about now?
Yes.
There we go. Okay. So we have a lot of questions about Austin right now. Mark is asking about Austin. We've got Sarah also asking about Austin at the moment. So you guys, while we let this radar play, I'm going to go ahead and look at that Austin forecast. I'm going to give an updated entire weather forecast here in about 2 minutes. So you guys, let us know where you're watching from. Is it Austin, San Antonio, Houston? We've got a forecast for that, and we'll talk about that here in just a few minutes. So let us know. We've got Joshua, Texas coming in as well. We're going to give about 2 minutes to let you guys, comment where you're watching from. We can see on Facebook and YouTube, I think, is where you can comment. You may not be able to comment on X. I'm not quite sure about that one. LinkedIn, I'm pretty sure you can comment. So we're live in all of those places. We're going to give you about 2 minutes to do that, and then we're going to go ahead and get started on a look ahead. And then we'll take a look at these storms again, because as Mikayla mentioned earlier, no imminent threat. However, high wind, 60, 65 mile per hour wind speeds are absolutely possible right now. Your hail risk, pretty low. Your tornado risk, also on the lower side. But we'll keep an eye on that, because that tornado risk could change. That's a potential, but not a promise. Okay, let me go ahead and look at Austin, and then we'll go ahead and get that forecast for you guys here in just a minute. We've got Saginaw, Texas coming in. Ooh, Austin. You know what I just initially see? You guys are going to get a lot of rain.
And that's another reminder too, for people in Austin, you're aware especially, but once you get further down Austin, Texas Hill Country, down to San Antonio too, areas even, back more towards the west, You also have a lot of rain for tonight, but even into tomorrow too. And so something else that's a warning for tonight is not just the severe weather threat that we're talking about, strong winds and the potential for tornadoes. We're also talking about the threat for flash flooding. So in those areas, especially in the Texas Hill Country, very flood prone. That's why we're gonna have to watch that too, just because the terrain that's down there, it doesn't take much rainfall. You get some of these storms that just absolutely dump rain in a very short amount of time, and that could quickly trigger flash flood warning. So keeping a close eye on that tonight. And remember, if you get a tornado warning or a flash flood warning, you want to take precautions with that just as much as you would of a tornado warning or something else, because flash flooding is also very dangerous.
Absolutely. That's a great reminder, Mikayla. We're in that level 2 risk for flash flood right now, which means numerous reports of flash flooding are absolutely possible. So it's absolutely something to take seriously, not only today, but also tomorrow. So Sarah is asking the $1 million question, right? Is hail possible in Austin? I have the perfect answer for you, Sarah. Well, I mean, I don't know if you're going to think it's perfect. I guess that's your opinion, what you find from this forecast. But here's our forecast right now. So I'll give you some caveats to this forecast. This is probably not the only round of storms that you're going to see. Tomorrow, you'll probably see a better chance for hail. However, for this forecast tonight, we're talking about 1 a.m. to 10 a.m. Earliest storm timing in Austin, maybe midnight. You guys have a while. You're still waiting on these storms that are sitting right now back in Mason. So it's pretty far away from you guys. You may be even watching for storms that are yet to form that you don't even see on the radar at the moment. As those storms form, they're going to move into your area. What we're looking at right now is 8:30. They're still back to the west. By about 10 o'clock, you may see your first strike of lightning far off in the distance. But finally, by midnight, those storms are on your doorstep. As these storms move through, they're going to be loud. They may wake you up through the overnight hours, but overall that hail risk, very, very low. When you get a hail risk, if you want large hail, that's what you're looking for. You're going to want that peak heating of the day whenever it's the hottest, and you're going to want these isolated supercells. Whenever they congeal into a long line like they have tonight, it's going to be a very low chance for large hail and a higher chance for embedded tornadoes and high wind. As we head into the overnight hours, those are going to be our biggest risks, is going to be that high wind speed and the potential for a spin-up tornado. It's low, but it's possible. Your chance for large hail is very, very low through the overnight hours. However, I'm going to pause right there and I'm going to go into Saturday, because your chance on Saturday for storms is much higher as they go potentially severe and with some larger hail potential. We zoom down into Saturday. Okay, so here we are on Saturday. You've got a level 2 risk for larger hail. Now, these storms are going to be in the afternoon, and they're going to be a little bit more typical for what we talked about earlier with that supercell structure, supercell mode, more isolated, and we'll show you that future radar here in just a few minutes. But there's your hail forecast for Saturday. We've got some more questions on here. We've got questions about DFW. Most likely not tonight. If you look at the radar in DFW, it's warned for wind. It's not warned for hail. I really highly doubt there's a ton of hail in this right here. Mark says, oh, Mark, this thinking, you think like a meteorologist here. Low chance, but it sort of happened yesterday in Oklahoma City last night, though. Yes, yeah, no, yes, that's exactly what happened, right? We said maybe there's one storm that could produce large hail, and that one storm formed in southern Oklahoma City. So yes, that's exactly what we're saying. Now we're not saying that tonight in Austin. We're saying that tomorrow. So let's go ahead and talk about tomorrow. I'm going to load my camera view for tomorrow. If you guys ever watch our noon forecasts, we start out national and then we go local. And while we show you the national forecast, go ahead, Mikayla.
Yeah, I'm just reading a few more of these comments. Seeing anything about Del Rio, Texas, tornado chances, hail Del Rio right now. You have the storms moving your direction. So far, they're not severe warned. They have what we like to call a special weather statement. So the Weather Channel, it means that the Weather Service is watching these storms. But at this point in time, they haven't decided that, the hail is large enough. Maybe the winds are strong enough to get that severe thunderstorm warning. So Del Rio, you are going to see some of this rain here very shortly. It's probably going to get pretty loud too. There's a lot of lightning in these storms that are moving towards you in Del Rio. But currently at this point in time, it's not a severe thunderstorm warning. So we'll keep an eye on that. Your biggest concern, I think, is going to be wind potential. Like Taylor's kind of already mentioned, the hail threat has kind of gone down pretty significantly for tonight. Even in far South Texas near Del Rio. So we'll keep a close eye on that, but you could expect some pretty heavy rainfall here shortly, lots of lightning. But as of right now, you don't even have a severe thunderstorm warning down in Del Rio.
Very well said. Okay, let's go right into
that you get a severe thunderstorm warnings.
Oh, did they? They just did?
They just issued one, yeah.
I mean, that's how it goes, right? We say it's not going to happen, and then that is the life of meteorologist right there.
Severe warned for 52 minutes for hail that's under quarter size. So it's going to be not the largest hail, not overly concerned. It's more a threat for wind. So they're talking about wind gusts 70, 75 miles per hour. So just be prepared that you may have to move away from outside walls and windows with some of those really strong winds if you're down in Del Rio, because again, you do now have a severe thunderstorm warning.
And this is what Mikayla is talking about right here. It's still back to your northwest, but it is moving your way. If we go ahead and back the radar up just a little bit, you can see the movement of it. So now we're going to go forward, and you can see the past movement of that radar. So you're probably going to get these tail end Charlie storms right there. Okay, let's switch back to that forecast for tomorrow. So we'll tell you, these storms that are moving through places like Fort Worth, just to the west of Killeen, Texas. I know I'm saying that wrong, y'all. Say it one more time, Mikayla.
Killeen.
Ah, I was so close. Junction, Texas right now. This line of storms, it's going to continue to track to the east. And that's what you see just across Houston and to the eastern side of Texas by early tomorrow morning. So that's that line of storms. Okay. So that's mainly a wind threat and a very low tornado threat. The hail threat, not great. It's very, very low. Okay, so what you're going to watch for in places like Austin and San Antonio for the larger hail threat, that's what's forming back. I know it says 6 a.m. I'm going to actually go a little bit forward here. Maybe, let me watch this all the way through. Right there. Okay, 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Those are the storms that you're watching for larger hailstones. Okay, so we've got 2 rounds of storms here. The one that's moving through right now that's going to last through the overnight hours into tomorrow morning. And then that second round that's starting tomorrow afternoon. So here we are, Saturday, 3:30. You start to see some isolated storms pop out just to the west of Austin. That is what we're watching for. Now, if these storms can stay isolated, off on their own, they're going to have time and space to organize. If they start to get clustered, like the radar is kind of showing right now, that's whenever we start to see more of that tornado and wind threat. Okay, so let's play this through.
We may have a tornado warning that might be coming for near Fort Worth. If you want to switch over, you want me to share my screen really fast. I don't want to interrupt you right now, but there's something pretty notchy, and I think there might be a CC drop.
Should we watch? Okay, so let's switch over. It's up to you if you want to share your screen, or I can still run. What do you?
Let's see if I can try to share mine really fast.
Okay, I can do the wide view. You go. There you go. Okay, perfect.
I can't see myself when I'm doing this, so
I'll tell you if anything looks off. I got you.
Right here is where I'm watching. And then if you look at the correlation coefficient, there was a CC drop before. So I don't know if this is clutter, but it is in a very similar spot that there's also wrapping with this radar. Whoop, a little too zoomed in. We're also kind of closer to the radar. So if we tilt it up a little bit more, it gets a better idea. Again, this is not a tornado warning officially from the National. I've just happened to be looking, and it looks pretty notchy, especially what I'm looking at here over on radar scope. But you can even see here with GR, I mean, right here, this little notch. So this is going to be south of Benbrook. This is going to be moving to the south. Let's see, pull this back a little bit. It's moving kind of northeast. So we're talking about between Fort Worth and Forest Hill. Kennedale too, if this kept its track, if this was a tornado. Okay, I definitely think you see this newest run here, Taylor.
Yeah, I see exactly what you're talking about.
I think this is, if it's a tornado, it's kind of hooking, it's wrapping up. So I want people to act like this is a tornado warning. It's not a tornado warning right now, officially from the National Weather Service of Fort Worth and Dallas. I want you, if you're watching and you have people in this area or you are in this area, I'm going to zoom back in on it. There's the wide view. You can see again, Fort Worth. This is to the south side of you. So Benbrook, this is not going to be impacting you. This is going to be to the east of you. But if you were in Fort Worth, if you were near downtown Fort Worth, Forest Hill, Kennedale, areas ahead, I mean, Arlington, you're eventually going to be in this path too. Again, this is not a tornado warning, but I am watching where this is wrapping up right now, just because this and the radar kind of gives me pause. I haven't seen a clear CC drop that would say that this is on the ground. I still think it might be slightly cluttered. But regardless, what I can tell you is that these winds are really strong. That's ripping into Benbrook, Edgecliff Village, south side of Fort Worth. It is really windy. I mean, even all the way up to White Settlement too, Lake Worth, Lakeside, River Oaks, you're about to see the winds really take off here too. If I zoom out a little bit, you can kind of see some of these winds. You see these bright reds and these greens. That's showing you where some really strong winds are moving into the west side of Fort Worth right now. So it's not quite into downtown Fort Worth. Fort Worth is seeing rainfall. If you see where I'm kind of circling here, the rain's there. The stronger winds are going to be back here more. And then this is still that area of concern near Edgecliff Village right here. Not a tornado warning from the National Weather Service, but definitely wanted to just kind of pinpoint this for you guys really quickly to see where these greens and these reds are a little bit closer. And then you have this kind of hook here. And then a little bit of debris. Again, we're so close to the radar here. I don't know if that is debris or if that's a little bit of clutter that's kind of showing up in the debris here too. I want to say it's kind of been following where this hook echo is. That makes me think that maybe that is a tornado, but I don't want to, again, step on toes. But let's pretend like it is a tornado on the ground right now just to be safe. So if you are in Fort Worth, Forest Hill, ahead of this, please get into your safe place. If you have family, friends that are in that area, please also have them get into their safe place.
And Mikayla, I'm looking at traffic cameras right now. In that area, we've also got a lot of red showing up on the traffic cameras. So it looks like, at bare minimum, it is heavy rain in this area. Most likely, we're going to add to that also those high winds that Mikayla was talking about, and of course, that potential tornado as well. As Mikayla was talking about, in this long line of storms, you can often have these embedded tornadoes that what they'll do is they'll drop down, they'll pick back up. They'll drop down, they'll pick back up. At night, that is wildly difficult to identify on radar and in person. So it may be very, very difficult for not only us, but also the National Weather Service to identify exactly what's happening here. But I'm glad that you identified that.
Interstate 20. And then eventually 35 West going into Fort Worth, into downtown Fort Worth. So again, if you are watching, I can't see comments and stuff like that right now. I'm just sharing my screen. So Taylor, if you can watch that, but this would be where my mouse is. This is Highway 20. This is 35 West going into downtown Fort Worth. This is still that area of circulation that we're watching for. You can kind of see it wrapped up here, still where these greens and these reds are touching. Would be where we're talking about the potential for a tornado. Over here, you can see as well, too, where I'm circling. This would be, if, again, this is not ground clutter, this would be our area that we would be watching for the potential for some debris. It is very close to the radar. It was kind of showing up a little bit beforehand, so I don't want to say, oh, for sure this is a tornado, but based off of the radar, the reflectivity picking up a little bit more, the velocity as well, and then the CC drop, the correlation coefficient drop. I just really wanted to jump on and kind of highlight this for people too.
I'm trying to see if National Weather Service Fort Worth has mentioned anything about it because it looks very, very notchy. I mean, this is exactly what we'd see. I don't see anything online that they've mentioned about this, identifying if they think that's strong wind or if they think that's some sort of rotation. I mean, it's, I think, very obvious rotation, but we'll have to see what they come out and say about that. Well, I absolutely keep an eye on that. That's
especially with the location. It's just getting ready to move into Fort Worth.
And tell me, what direction do you think that's moving?
We can play this back a little bit so we can see it's moving. Okay, so here's the newest model. It would be just now. It might be if it was a tornado occluding, but it's going to be right on top of part of Fort Worth, it looks like.
So it's moving more, it looks like to me, to like the northeast. Well, this whole line of storms is moving to the southeast. So just an idea of what we're looking at here, or at least to the east. An idea of what we're looking at here, we often identify this or explain this as football players moving on the field. You know, they may move in different directions, but they're all moving in the same direction. So even though we say this line of storms is moving to the east, this part of the storm could be moving to the northeast. So just kind of a change of what you may be thinking about. Don't look, if you're in Fort Worth, the storms to the northwest of you. Take a look down to the south at that little notch. Just, you know, kind of reorient yourself about what could be going on south of you. At the very minimum, as Mikayla said, we've got very strong winds and heavy rain with this.
Yes, the very minimum. Again, we don't want to alarm anybody. We don't want to make anybody immediately jump to conclusions, but just as 2-degree meteorologists here looking at things that we've been trained to look at, that's just something that immediately catches my eye. I do think if, again, there was a tornado, I think it's not in an environment that it's going to be able to sustain itself for very long. So you kind of zoom out. And again, if I play this back, you can see the direction that this storm is moving is more to the northeast, but this starts to take more of a directly northward approach. So I do think that, you know, that if it was riding this boundary right at the front, we kind of talked about too, that these are QLCS. They're quick spin up tornadoes. They go up, they go down. They're not really able to hold their strength, hold their stability very long because the environment is not favorable for these, you know, kind of longer track tornadoes. That's not why it's a supercell. It's in a line, it's in a complex of storms. So there's also many other storm interactions that it's not really able to maintain its strength, meaning able to maintain its ability. But I, again, just wanted to watch this very closely and see. So I can stop sharing my screen if you want me to, Taylor, or if you want me to keep doing it. I'm not as concerned. I think now it is starting to wrap up more. I'm even looking off to the side here at radar scope, and it does look like, regardless, even if it's not a tornado, there's really strong winds about to move into Fort Worth. So if you were in the city of Fort Worth right now, get ready to hunker down because those winds are about to be kicking in there. Lake Worth, you're still seeing that again. Benbrook, you're seeing those really strong winds. About to be into downtown Fort Worth. Forest Hill, eventually it's going to impact you. Arlington, you'll be down the line from this. Keller, South Lake, North Richland Hills, all going to be down the line for these storms.
Yeah, and I'm kind of just doing around the radar here. I mean, if you want to see the full radar, it's in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. The rest of Fort Worth that is not included in that spot that Mikayla was highlighting right there. Now, you guys are all, I mean, from Hazlitt all the way down to Cleburne and Blum. I really hope, and I doubt that I'm saying these correctly, and Whitney. You guys are all included in a severe thunderstorm warning, and that is for 65-mile-per-hour wind gusts. So it's a little elevated from our original severe thunderstorm warning threshold. That's usually 60-mile-per-hour wind gust. We're going to go a little step above that. We're saying 65 at this point. So strong winds coming into Fort Worth right now. We're probably going to have strong winds all the way down into Rio Vista and Whitney as well. So we are officially making that transition from hail to now a wind threat. It is an official wind threat at this point. MJ Cleveland, I know that there has been a lot of conversation online as well that this could be a tornado that's in Fort Worth. MJ's agreeing with your analysis, Mikayla, saying that debris field spotted in southwest Fort Worth, so potentially a brief touchdown there. And I've been seeing a lot of people online agree with that analysis as well.
And right here, you can still see.
Yeah.
Where I'm circling right here, this would be debris. This would still be the area of rotation. It's not as significant with the reflectivity, what I'm looking at right here, but I mean, you still have greens and reds touching. You still have a debris. You still have this possible signature of a debris ball. I think this very well could be a tornado that was on the ground. It still might possibly be on the ground. So at that point, it's going to be passing north of Edgecliff Village. It is moving directly towards Fort Worth. If it were to keep its pace, it does look like if it was a tornado, again, it's starting to occlude back into this line of storm. So if that is also what's happening here, okay, we have a new scan. Let's jump and see. I don't see a clear debris signature anymore now with this new. Help me try to find. Let's see. This is where we were. We were looking at this and then it jumps. So debris ball, if there was one, debris ball, newest scan. It might be more scattered on this side. That means the It's passed very close to Fort Worth, downtown Fort Worth. Again, if this was a tornado on the ground, it is very close to Fort Worth. So this tracked along I-20. It tracked along 35 West. The next highway that you're getting close to in Fort Worth would be 30. So this is going to be 30. That's going to be moving out of Fort Worth. So want people to watch that too, because this would be tracking across another major highway. If this were to somehow put itself back together, then North Richland Hills, Colleyville, Euless, Arlington, these areas, going to watch carefully for you. I do, again, think this is starting to occlude. I don't see as much rotation anymore. That really stands out to me. I don't see clear debris balls. Maybe the last round right there would have been kind of lining up where that signature is. This would be where you would expect to see something right here too, with these winds touching, but I'm not really seeing anything correlation coefficient wise on the radar now.
Yeah, and I'm watching traffic cameras here. I mean, it's heavy rain. Obviously, Texas traffic cameras, we couldn't see if there was anything that's spinning up, but it does look like we have a lot more red on our traffic cameras now. There's absolutely in that area that you're identifying, and I can share this with you so that you can see what I'm seeing. But people have absolutely come to either a standstill in this area or a very, very slow crawl. So you can see that area that Mikayla was identifying right there. You can see my mouse hovering over it near Edgecliff Village, as she was mentioning. She was talking about approaching another major highway as well. We've got a major slowdown in this area. It looks like some of our cameras are down as well. So we may have a power outage in this area as well. We'll have to check the power outage map here in just a few minutes as well. But it looks like, I mean, heavy rain, absolutely. High winds, yes. Tornado potentially on the ground for a short period of time, and power outages also in this area. Traffic looking like it's at a standstill, so I don't want to keep you on this for too long. I'm going to switch back over to what Mikayla was showing so that we can get another view of the radar. But just kind of an update there. If you plan on going out anytime soon, you may wait until this storm system passes, because it looks like things are just at a standstill in Fort Worth right now. Dallas, this is coming for you next. So it is continuing to make its way into Dallas. It may take some time to do so. So you guys have some time to prepare yourself, make sure that you're in a place that you won't get impacted by this high wind and heavy rain threat.
Yeah, taking a break from the potential tornado warning. I'm seeing a lot of people talking about this on the internet. So yes. I'm glad I'm not the only one that was concerned about this area of rotation. I'll be very interested to see what the National Weather Service of Fort Worth and Dallas has to say after this. But like Taylor mentioned earlier, this whole yellow polygon right here, can you still see my screen, Taylor? Is it still being shared?
I can. Yep.
Okay. This whole yellow polygon, like Taylor mentioned, is still a severe thunderstorm warning. It goes for 20 more minutes. Those winds are 60, 65 miles per hour. This is this line of storms that we're watching. So even if you're not in Fort Worth, this extends with some pretty strong winds. You can see down here on your top right of your screen, Mansfield down to Grandview as well, dealing with these. Ooh, we just got really close in there, guys. Sorry about that.
And Mikayla, we did get a report from an amateur radio spotter. They are saying 67 mile per hour wind speed. So an official 67 mile per hour wind speed report. So just a bit above what it was originally warned for, which was 65. Pretty impressive winds with this.
Very impressive winds with this. So there's this kind of wide view again for people. This extends all the way down Hillsborough. You're not seeing this wind just yet. It's going to be moving your direction. Dallas, you're not in this warning. You're likely going to be in the next warning if they continue this severe thunderstorm warning. At that point, it's probably going to be Dallas, Waxahachie, a few other areas too. We're talking about Red Oak, Ferris, Midlothian, May, Pearl, Italy. There's going to be quite a few cities. Think I've somehow transitioned from I had something that's zooming in now instead of just my little grabber, and I'm not exactly sure how to change it over. So I keep accidentally, oh, here we go. Okay, we're good. I was zooming into stuff earlier. I didn't mean to. Irving, Dallas, DeSoto, Red Oak, possibly even Rockwall Heath. You might be in this next warning. I'm not entirely sure if the National Weather Service will go all the way out there. They might just include Dallas County, but if not, Rockwall County might be included. Tarrant County, Kaufman County, you might be included eventually, or not Tarrant County, excuse me, Kaufman County, a few others. So watching that, I don't know how I keep zooming in like that. there's this line right here that we're still watching. So even if that was, we think our tornado, if there was one on the ground, has most likely lifted now at this point. It's just back to being a line of storms that we're watching as this moves in. Fort Worth, you have already now been impacted possibly by a tornado. This line that, again, has had multiple tornado warnings now on it, or unwarned tornado warnings, regardless, very strong winds. This is moving out of Fort Worth and now into the west side of Dallas. So there's a very populated area right now about to be experiencing these storms. So if you know anybody in these areas, give them a heads up that these storms are moving in.
Absolutely. And yeah, you're right, Mikayla. A lot of people on social media right now are making the same comments that you were, that potential tornado, unwarned, not quite sure what the thinking was there, and maybe there's something that we're not seeing. However, these QLCS tornadoes, they are so hard to spot. So I think that was a great job on your part that you did see that, and that you acted on that immediately. While we wait for more updates to come from the Storm Prediction Center or the National Weather Service in the DFW area, and we'll go back to the radar here in just a few minutes. I know a lot of people were tuning on to talk about the storms that are happening tomorrow. So after this line of storms passes by tomorrow, so what we're talking about here, let's zoom this all the way back. Okay, so this line of storms is going to continue to track to the east, past Dallas, past 35, past 45. By early tomorrow morning, we are officially in Houston. Houston getting an absolute soaking early tomorrow morning. And then what we see as we head into the afternoon hours is round 2. So we were talking about Austin earlier. A lot of people were asking what's going to happen in Austin. This is where your hail threat comes in for everyone in Austin. 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, take a look to your west. You may have those storms on your doorstep tomorrow afternoon. What we're watching for here is more of that severe potential. So you want, more of that isolated potential for those storms to go severe. So you want storms to have enough space, enough room to organize. That's where you get your hailers. So you want that isolated first if you want hail. If not, you don't want isolated storms, because that's going to be your supercells. And we're going to continue to see this congeal into a line as it tracks closer to the coast. So Houston, you're also going to see that hail threat for tomorrow evening. So we're talking about 24 hours from now, storms coming into Houston, 9:30, 10:30 at night. Nocturnal tornadoes are possible once again in a very similar fashion to what we see tonight. We could see an embedded QLCS with embedded tornadoes. We could also see strong winds and large hail in Houston tomorrow as well. So we're just going to do a copy and paste of what we did today for tomorrow. We're just going to shift it to the east a little bit. But I don't want to go too far without talking about what's happening right now. So let's go back to the radar. I'm
watching it like a hawk. Big changes right now. Still have our severe thunderstorm warning that's going to expire in about 15 minutes or so. If the National Severe Weather Service of Dallas, extends it. They haven't yet. They likely will be extending that into Dallas County as well. But really another change too that we've been talking about, Taylor and I've been talking about for the last several days, is you see a lot of green boxes here. It might be hard to see with so much going on with all the rain, but there are quite a few flash flood warnings now too to the north side of Dallas. So that's going to include areas like Gainesville, Whitesboro. You can see Decatur, Briar, Weatherford. You're all in flash flood warnings right now because this rainfall, like we've been talking about, this risk for rain was just going to continue and continue and continue. But there's so much moisture available too that we're seeing this absolutely just dumping on some of these cities. So that's why we're watching for the potential continuing to be for flash flooding. So this is not just a right now problem, with more rain still possible tonight. And then again, tomorrow too. That's why flash flooding will continue to be a threat. Now the threat's going to shift slightly more tomorrow for your Saturday. It's going to be more areas to the south. So Austin, San Antonio, especially Houston. Houston is notorious for flooding. When you get just a little bit of rain, I feel like Houston starts to flood. So Houston Metro is going to be one definitely that'll be worth watching tomorrow for the potential for flash flooding. Beaumont into Lake Charles, Lafayette, Louisiana as well. Even up to Shreveport, I think could be included in some of the flooding potential for tomorrow. So make sure that you're keeping just an eye on that as well with the storm threat. Obviously, we're going to be dealing with storms tomorrow. Taylor's kind of mentioned that multiple times, breaking that out for you guys tomorrow. So hopefully you were able to pay attention, kind of get those information for tomorrow's storms, but flash flooding is still going to be a threat. Taylor, we can't hear you again.
Oh, I mean, that happens. Sorry. You guys, we're doing this from home, so, my dog's a little loud back there. So while she's loud, I mute myself and unmute myself. Anyway, so I'm showing in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen that forecast for tomorrow. But if you guys are asking about this, I see Tyler is asking about Saturday evening in Houston. We'll just go back and forth. We'll do this oscillation between the right now, that current radar. We'll take a look at tomorrow. We'll go back to that current radar. We'll take a look at tomorrow. So we'll kind of do this as you guys have questions. So again, let us know where you're watching from, and we'll answer those questions for you. The question was, large hail Saturday evening for Houston. You nailed the timing. It's going to be late Saturday evening and into the late, maybe even overnight hours into early Sunday morning. Now, Houston right now, I'm interested to see, will this be a wind threat by the time storms get to you? Very similar to what we saw tonight, we're going to see those storms congeal into a line and switch from that hail to that wind threat. So I went ahead today and I put that risk for Houston hail low. Level 1 on a scale of 5, I made sure that we talked about isolated hail in Houston, but not promising. Not promising hail because we could shift to the wind threat by that point. Nothing's for sure at this point. It really just depends on when we make that shift. Tonight, we saw a very clear moment whenever we made that shift from a hail threat to a wind threat. We'll see what happens tomorrow, but again, I'm keeping your chances low, just being a realist there, not trying to hype anything up. Let's go ahead and take a look at the tornado threat, and that is something that you have to keep an eye on for tomorrow. We have a level 2 tornado threat highlighted there in yellow. You absolutely have to keep an eye on the tornado threat here because just like what we saw tonight, even if it's a wind threat, you could have tornadoes embedded in a line of storms, and you could see those tornadoes drop down and pick back up and drop down and pick back up in these areas like Houston and Lafayette. So that's something that we're watching for, most likely high wind, low hail threat, and that tornado threat in Houston. Lafayette, very similar forecast there, very low chance for hail in that area, but high wind. Where I'm really watching for hail tomorrow, that's going to be back to the west into places like Austin and San Antonio. That's going to be your hail threat for the most part tomorrow. It's pretty iffy, if I'm going to be honest, for Houston. We've got some updates here. We always appreciate the updates from where you guys are from. Peoria, Texas, heavy rain just started, very windy and lots of lightning. Yeah, I have seen some of these lightning reports on our radar here. You guys have a ton of lightning through this entire system. And we saw that last night in Oklahoma. So we know exactly what you guys are talking about here, where it just sounds like a bowling ball out your window, a bowling alley out your window, with all of the thunder and lightning. One thing to note with this system down in the far south western portion of Texas, it is warned for 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts. So we've got some really strong wind with this right here going into Carter Valley right now, Lakeview, all included in the severe thunderstorm warning. You go further up to the north, you've got quarters and 60. And then, of course, Fort Worth also warned for quarters. And no, not warned for any hail at all, warned for 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts.
If you guys start to hear thunder, I am currently in Dallas.
Are you? Yeah, you're getting that thunder?
Chased by these storms.
It was me last night. It's you tonight.
Yeah, you were out last night pulling stuff up. This is going to be me tonight. I'm going to be outside. All right, guys, here it comes. I'm sitting out in Rockwall, Texas right now. So if you look at Taylor's map, I'm in the smallest county in Texas. Rockwall County is the smallest county in Texas. It's just a little square box.
Oh.
There's your fun fact Friday.
How many counties do you guys have in Texas?
Oh,
do you know? I don't know why that's interesting to me, but
I want to say 300 something. Let's look.
Ooh. Do you know how many counties are in Oklahoma?
I don't remember that.
You're
254 counties in Texas.
Well, we are into the fun fact trivia portion of the night. 77 counties in Oklahoma, by the way, everyone. No one wanted to know that. However,
Now you do.
now you know. Share that at the dinner table tomorrow. One note here, I did want to note more on a serious note here. Whenever we were talking about flooding earlier, I forgot to say in Decatur, we did have a report about water rescue completed near the Prescott Road and mile marker 51. So just a note there that flooding is absolutely going to be a concern, not only tonight, but also tomorrow. And flood rescues happen all the time. So make sure that you guys are taking that seriously. You know the drill here. Turn around, don't drown. When in doubt, take another route. Take another route. When in doubt, take another route. And let's talk
Drought
about
causes
this.
flash flooding. Don't worry about it.
Let's talk about this new severe thunderstorm warning that was just issued for Dallas. So this was officially extended from Fort Worth and now into Dallas. 65-mile-per-hour wind gusts. No update on the biggest hazards here. Still not warned for hail. It is warned for high wind speeds. And
I find it interesting that they only issued the warning. So when we talked about that, maybe this could get, issued down. We said, okay, is it going to be Dallas County? Is it going to go down a little bit further? Are we going to talk about Rockwall County? Are we going to talk about Kaufman County? Maybe. So far, it's not even all of Dallas County too that this warning is extended into. It's only part of Dallas County. So Carrollton, Richardson, Irving, Dallas, Balch Springs, DeSoto, you are in this new warning. Duncanville, Hutchins, University Park. If you are closer to SMU, Highland Park too, you were in this new warning. Carrollton, Garland, Saxe, Richardson, all Farmers Branch, all in this new warning in Dallas County.
And I wonder if they did that just because this rain, this line of storms, it just hasn't made its way closer to places like Waxahachie. Tell me how to say that. Waxahachie?
Waxahachie. You're doing good. That's the difference. I'm from this area, so Taylor's like, okay, how do we...
Tell me an Oklahoma town. I know how to pronounce it.
She's your Oklahoma girl. I'm the Texas-Oklahoma transplant. Texas transplant and living in Oklahoma.
Texas, not so much. I don't know the town names as well as I do Oklahoma.
That's why you guys hired me. I'm here to help with the Dallas area.
But hey, we make a great team because we cover storms perfectly with our different expertise. But yes, I'm kind of wondering if they didn't warn this area quite yet, just because they're waiting for storms to get closer. The warning means take action. If those storms take 30, maybe 40 minutes to get to you, you kind of wonder, did I take action too soon? So I think that they're kind of working on the perfect timing of when to actually issue that warning. So we're telling you right now, in these areas, you're probably going to have to take action soon. However, there's not a warning yet. So just be prepared. You'll probably have to take action soon. You may be getting your first few sprinkles, seeing the lightning and hearing the thunder off in the distance, but it's not to you quite yet. Once that warning is issued, that's when you take that action. So I think that that's probably why this area hasn't been warned yet. But Dallas is warned. 65-mile-per-hour wind speeds, not worried about the hail in this area.
And there's still some strong winds down the southern part of the line too. That's going to be getting closer to Midlothian now. Grandview just passed through you. Itasca, that's moving closer to you as well. Carl's Corner, you're not quite there yet, but it's getting closer. Hillsborough, the rain is starting. There's been some clouded ground lightning near you in Hillsborough as well, so you're probably hearing that rumble of thunder now. Again, I'm all the way out in Rockwall, but we have some lightning strikes that are well ahead of this main line because I'm hearing the thunder now too. And that's another thing that people maybe don't realize is that you can have a line of storms, and ahead of that line of storms, there could still be cloud ground lightning. So that's why we always tell you, if thunder roars, go indoors, because you don't have to be in the heaviest rain for lightning to strike to hear that thunder. It can go well in advance, actually, of a storm. Last night was a great example of this. If you were on live with us last night, I was streaming from Tulsa, where I live, and the storms were 48 miles from me, and we had lightning that struck and was able to hear rumbles of thunder. And the main line was 48 miles back to the west. So great example of how that can happen, which is why we want people to use caution again, especially it's a Friday night if there's outdoor activities, especially Dallas. Sometimes there's concerts, things that are happening. I don't know when SMU's homecoming was, if it's tonight, if it's not, I'm not really sure. That's just something for people to be aware of as the storm system moves in.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point there. You guys know the drill there. If it roars, go indoors. You don't want to be outside during this. Just kind of watching what other people are saying online, and just kind of going back to that Fort Worth potential tornado. A lot of people are highlighting that online. Lots of lightning. Ooh, really seeing a ton of lightning in this area as well.
You guys remember where you heard it first, okay? If there does end up being a tornado, I want you guys to spread it to your friends where you heard it first. Taylor and I gave it to you first thing right here at HailTrace, so you know where to come back to and watch for next time storms.
We were on top of it before any sort of warning was issued in Fort Worth. We were live with you guys. We were talking about exactly what to expect in this area. We had it covered, and then whenever that potential tornado touched down in Fort Worth, we were talking about that as well. We're officially almost an hour into this coverage here, and I don't see a ton of other questions coming in. So you guys tell us where you're watching from this evening. Tell us what areas you want us to talk about. Do you want to go into forecast for tomorrow? Do you want to stay on the live radar right now? We'll kind of go back and forth here. Until then, you guys let us know what questions you have for us. We'll stay on just a few more minutes as we watch these storms go into Dallas here. But again, it's warned for high wind speeds. And we've already seen these high winds verify, right? We've seen this 6-7 mile per hour wind speed reported in Kennedale. We've seen a 63 mile per hour wind gust reported in Westworth. That was back at, about 16 minutes ago. So as this continued to move to the east, potentially we could see some high winds. Now, the shape of this doesn't tell me that we're going to get as interesting of a threat as we did earlier. I'm actually going to pull up my 4-box one more time. I can share that with you guys.
So something new and really fast while Taylor's doing that, the National Weather Service of Dallas and Fort Worth has, instead of extending this severe thunderstorm warning for areas to the south, kind of like we were talking about earlier, how there was a disconnect. They didn't line this whole storm with the severe thunderstorm warning. They just did Dallas County. They went ahead and for the southern part of the area did the special weather statements. That's what we were talking about earlier too, that sometimes, before they officially warn a storm, they'll do what we call a special weather statement. So it's still saying, hey, there's potentially some hail that's there, but it's not, to the size that we would want to give a severe thunderstorm warning. Hey, these winds are still strong here, not to the regard yet that we would want to give a severe thunderstorm warning. So the winds are maybe getting a little weaker right now to the point that they didn't feel like they needed to continue to have the severe thunderstorm warning extended for areas further to the south. So that's Midlothian, Waxahachie, Italy, Palmer, Ennis. You're going to not technically be under severe thunderstorm warning right now. That doesn't mean that the storms aren't moving your way. They are moving your way, and they could very quickly kind of ramp back up. We like to call these storms, they kind of pulse. So they'll have times that they pulse up really quickly, that sometimes when we get those quick spin up type tornadoes is when it's really pulsing. The winds pick up at that point. And then you'll start to see them kind of pull back down a little bit. So at that point, the winds come down a little bit more. The tornado threat kind of weakens. But it just takes these storms getting into the perfect environment. The environment may not last very long, especially with this cluster of storms. We talked a little bit about it earlier, that there's a lot of interactions around them. So as these storms are interacting with a few other things around them, it doesn't, they're not going to be in that perfect position for very long. But as they pulse up, that's when we're really watching for that tornado threat, like we had earlier going into Fort Worth. That again was not warned, but we were right on top of that too. So if there was a tornado on the ground, again, you guys saw it here with us first. And that doesn't mean if you are areas to the south that you're not technically in this new severe thunderstorm warning. If you're just in this special weather statement, that you shouldn't still be paying attention, staying weather aware, because very quickly this could pulse back up and you could find yourself in a severe thunderstorm warning.
Yeah, absolutely. That pulse, just as temperatures can go up and down, it's basically like that severe thunderstorm can intensify and then it can weaken, and then it can intensify and it can weaken. It can kind of take you on this roller coaster ride of what's actually happening here. We had a great question come into the chat here. Keith asks, I just got a notification from HailTrace. Y'all are mapping a tornado in Fort Worth. Can you elaborate? Which I'm sure sounds very confusing, Keith, because there wasn't a warning, right? Well, we identified identified an area of circulation down just southwest of Fort Worth. And Mikayla did a great job of identifying this and saying, hey, we have to keep an eye on this. Now, again, this was about 20 minutes ago at this point. I'm rewinding the radar and I'm showing you that area of circulation. Basically, what you can see from this long line of storms right here, we're watching for these little notches in this storm. And if a notch looks clearly interesting, like this one did, we take a look and we look at the velocity. So this is storm relative velocity on the upper right-hand side of your screen. Then we take a look at correlation coefficient and what we call a CC drop. Whenever these blues start to arrive on this correlation coefficient, means that there is some sort of larger object that has been lofted into the atmosphere, often meaning that a tornado has touched down, is on the ground. So it wasn't a true CC drop. However, it did look very, very interesting. So we watched this as it was coming into the Edgecliff Village area, and then it continued to look very, very interesting as it continued to move up to the northeast, tracking almost north at times, cycling through and not looking as impressive as it moved into.
That very next scan is when you had a pretty decent idea. There could have still been a CC drop on that you just showed.
Right here.
What
is that what, right here or this one?
Yeah, if you zoom in,
this one was the most impressive. Yeah, I totally agree.
Even the next one too, you can still kind of see where that rotation is.
Yeah,
all three of them. That one, the one you just showed, and then the one after that. There's still an area that correlation coefficient, which is why we were looking at it. That was my first hint when I was, looking off to the side. Taylor was trying to give you guys a look ahead towards tomorrow. And again, so sorry for interrupting that, but I was looking here to the side and I was like, oh, okay, we have the reflectivity showing, we have the velocity showing. Now I'm thinking I'm seeing, a drop in our correlation coefficient. Hey, I think we have a tornado. So those are the kind of three things that we always like to look at. You could have really good rotation. You could have an area on reflectivity, but if you don't have that correlation coefficient, that CC drop, you probably don't have something on the ground. If you have the CC drop, but it doesn't correspond to the reflectivity, to the velocity on the radar, it's usually ground clutter. It's something else that's going to be there. But when you have all three of them together, a lot of times that's indicating to us, hey, there's a tornado on the ground.
Absolutely. Well, and yeah, I appreciate you jumping in there. You did a phenomenal job identifying that and walking us through that as well. Absolutely great coverage here, talking about the minute that we saw a notch, exactly what we were seeing potentially on the ground. And it looks like a lot of people are also agreeing with that across the internet. Now, I will have to say it's wildly difficult to identify this, especially at night. So, it's very, very difficult to see this pop up and identify it and say, hey, we've got to talk about it. Because a lot of times, we've talked about this so many times tonight, these tornadoes will drop down and pick back up and drop down and pick back up, especially in a line of storms like this. So it's very, very hard to identify. However, this was about 20 minutes ago, potential tornado in downtown Fort Worth. We can play this all the way through so you can see the cycle of this line of storms over the last 30 minutes here. There you go. So now what we're seeing at the moment is we've got a brand new severe thunderstorm warning in Dallas. This is warned for 65-mile-per-hour wind gusts, and your hail risk at this point, very, very low, very low. One question, what map is in the bottom right? So this is correlation coefficient. I like to explain correlation coefficient by explaining different sizes of particles in the atmosphere with an example of, think about a bag of jelly beans. Those jelly beans are all the same size, right? Now imagine if you put a Reese's peanut butter cup in the middle of that bag of jelly beans. That's a much larger piece, right? So that's what this is identifying. It's identifying the larger pieces in the atmosphere, or the pieces that don't align uniform with the pieces around it. So whenever we saw that potential tornado down in Fort Worth, and I don't know if we could actually just go ahead and call it or not, but I'm going to wait for further guidance on that. So whenever we saw that,
keep saying potential tornado,
we're going to keep that. Okay.
Don't want to jump the gun just yet. I think anyone who knows enough about weather, we could say that it was a tornado, but we'll keep saying potential to not step on any toes until we get a more clear answer on that.
I completely agree. So what we're seeing here is basically all of these areas that are highlighted here in this purple and this red, a lot of those particles are uniform inside. Those are our jelly beans. Those are heavy rain, right? But whenever we see these brighter colors, those greens usually mean large hail. The blues, that is a large, some sort of piece of debris that has been lofted into the atmosphere, and that identifies that there's a larger object in the atmosphere. So that's what you're seeing in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. We call it correlation coefficient, or sometimes we just refer to it as CC. Question about the bottom left map. Okay, this helps us identify, this is called KDP. It helps us identify heavy rainfall. So we look at this to identify heavy rain versus large hail. Usually I use this for heavy rain. It's not always the most helpful or the most reliable on its own. However, paired with another product, it is very, very helpful. So usually it identifies pretty heavy rain. That's what I use it for.
Said sorry, bottom left, not bottom right.
Yeah, that bottom left is KDP. Heavy
Okay,
rain.
you saw that
So
comment.
we'll say heavy rain right here, heavy rain right here, near Florence Hill. That's usually what I use it for. So we've got all kinds of different products. I can change this to VIL, which a lot of people use for hail. If any hail, very, very small in this area. I'm really not impressed about the hail in this area. A little bit larger as you head to the south, but still not terribly impressive. Sometimes these products, they can think that they're seeing hail, but they're actually seeing heavy rain. That's why you need a meteorologist to interpret that. So we can switch through all different types of products. Great questions this evening. And I think those are all of our questions. So I know these storms are moving into Dallas right now. They're warned for 65-mile-per-hour wind gusts. What we're going to do here is we're going to keep this radar rotating, and we're going to be monitoring your questions. So we're going to watch for your questions to come in. If there is any questions that are, that we're going to answer, or that are pertaining to the forecast ahead or the current radar, we will answer those, and we will jump back on here and we'll give you guys an update. But for now, we're going to leave the radar rotating, so you're going to see that come up in this screen right here. Put your questions in that comment section, and we'll jump back on here either later on this evening or early tomorrow morning to talk about that next round of storms on Saturday. Thanks for joining us tonight. Follow HailTrace for more weather updates. We are live every single weekday at noon, and of course, just like tonight, whenever there is severe weather. Hey, Hail Stalkers, thanks for joining us on this Friday evening. We appreciate everyone being up with us late to cover these Dallas storms. Now, it does look like the National Weather Service is going to cancel this severe thunderstorm warning after these storms move through the Dallas metro. So it looks like that yellow polygon that you've been seeing on your screen will go away here in just a few minutes. It was warned for high wind speeds, strong wind speeds, about 65 miles an hour. And again, it will expire after these storms continue to track through the east of Dallas. At this point, some of our biggest concerns are going to be heavy rainfall. That's going to create a flooding issue as we head into the overnight hours. So we'll continue to watch this flooding issue all the way through tomorrow morning, and then again tomorrow evening with another round of rain that will arrive tomorrow as well. To prepare for those storms tomorrow, we're going to go ahead and get some sleep. Now, we do have meteorologists that are tracking the storms 24/7. So Mikayla and I know that we tracked storms tonight in front of you guys. We have meteorologists behind the scenes that will continue to track storms. If you don't have the HailTrace app, make sure that you go to the App Store and download that app and get ready for storms tomorrow. We'll be back on here tomorrow to forecast storms for Saturday. So we have 2 rounds of storms here. Of course, the storms tonight and then the storms tomorrow as well. So we'll be forecasting those for you. We'll make sure that you are updated. We'll see you back here tomorrow. But for now, heavy rain is coming into your area in Dallas. Farther down south, we've got some high winds as well. We have officially transitioned into that high wind threat and very low hail threat with potential isolated tornadoes through the overnight hours. We'll see you back here early tomorrow morning. Stay safe, stay informed, keep your phone on through the overnight hours, and let's prepare for tomorrow's storms. All right, we will see you then.